Why don't we have our county commissioners come up, and as they come up, I'll read a bit of their biographies, just partial. I got it right off the county website. It's good information there if you guys choose to expand upon this. Chair John Ludlow was elected chair of the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners in November 2012. He previously served as mayor of Wilsonville on the Wilsonville City Council and as board member for Clackamas Community College. John has twice been honored as Wilsonville Citizen of the Year and received the Oregon Department of Corrections 2012 Outstanding Volunteer Award. He owns a real estate company and has served in leadership capacities for several professional organizations. John has been honored as Realtor of the Year by the Portland Metropolitan Association of Realtors and has received their Good Neighbor Award in 2008. He has twice served as president of the Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce and recently received distinguished lifetime membership in that Chamber of Commerce. And these just come in the order they are on the website. Commissioner Paul Savas was elected to the County Board of Commissioners in November 2010. His small business, Savas Tuning Systems, has served customers in Clackamas County for 25 years. Commissioner Savas brings years of local government and civic organization experience to help him serve the citizens of Clackamas County. He is co-chair of the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, which is C4, and is Clackamas County's representative to Metro's Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation. Martha Schrader was elected to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, this time in May of 2012, and was appointed as vice chair of the board in 2014. She previously served as commissioner from 2003 to 2009. Martha represented District 20 as a state senator from 2009 to 2011. Martha holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from the College of Agriculture. I just had to read her education because it's impressive. And Life Sciences at Cornell University, a master's degree in entomology from the University of Illinois, and a master's degree in education from Portland State University. She's also a fellow with the American Leadership Forum. Tootie Smith was elected to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners in November 2012. Prior to that, she was a state representative from 2001 to 2005, where she served on several key committees, including Ways and Means and as Deputy Majority Leader. She is the first conservative woman elected to the Clackamas County Commission. I assume that's a direct quote, isn't it? She has owned a local business for 25 years and is a fourth-generation farmer, a former journalist and lobbyist, and has served as a chief financial officer for several corporations. Commissioner Jim Bernard was elected Clackamas County Commissioner in November 2008. He previously served as mayor of Milwaukee for 8 years and is the owner of a third-generation family-owned business, which I will name as Bernard's Garage in downtown Milwaukee, which was founded in 1925. Commissioner Bernard brings a legacy of strong customer and constituent service to the residents of Clackamas County. Now we're going to start with some prepared questions that we have. You'll notice on your tables there should be some index cards. You see Mark's holding one up. If you have any questions you'd like to address to the commissioners, please write it out on that index card and hold your hand up with the card in hand, and a volunteer will come around and collect that question and bring it up here to the podium.
Rob?
Yes.
Can I mention something real quick?
Certainly.
I was informed as I got here that that City Commissioner Amanda Fritz's husband was traveling from Salem this morning, and there was a huge pileup on I-5, and he died.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'd ask you to hold her in your thoughts and prayers, and her family as well. A tragic, tragic happening. And there's slick roads out there, folks, so slow down and be appreciative of the fact that you're alive, and every time you leave the loved one, tell them you love them before you leave them. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, here's question number one. We're going to do a 2-minute time for anybody that chooses to answer at this point. And here's the first question. Several weeks ago, the Board of County Commissioners voted unanimously to pursue a land use bargain during the upcoming legislative session. Could you tell us more about the land use issues you are exploring and how you believe your success on these issues would benefit existing businesses and future economic growth in the county?
I'm happy to jump in.
1 minute.
The timer's right here, bud.
Okay.
1 minute.
1 minute? Okay.
Two.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
is it two?
Is it two?
Yeah, I said two.
Well,
Please, Paul.
we've been working with our Economic Development Commission for actually about 3 years. I know there's some of our members are in the audience. But this year, primarily, we're focusing on what our areas of focus ought to be for lands that are inside the UGB, and as it applies to urban rural reserves in a bargain, what the lands are outside the UGB. And what we discovered is that the work that was done and adopted in 2010 has some shortfalls. And with that, we have discovered that, or asked staff, what on the map can we potentially bring into the UGB that has infrastructure nearby that we can serve and bring? And the answer is we have nothing. And so our economic development staff are working on a project they presented to us last week, basically what they call a pipeline of projects and lands to come in to meet the employment needs. And we have a void in that, and we don't have much in the way of future planning. So the whole purpose of Senate Bill 1011, which was to bring in or identify 50-year supply of land, we're going to have to take another look at. I think that's the recommendation I kind of sense coming from our Development Commission next month, which we discussed this morning, actually. So we're going to have to work real hard to identify what to bring in as a bargain to the legislature in 2015. So we have a lot of work to do in a very short time.
And I'd like to add something to that. I think the challenge we're going to face is there are a number of partners that we need to be in concert with. It's become very clear that the legislature, Brian Clem in particular, Representative Clem, they want to come in with a united front to say everyone is in agreement. So it's really going to be a matter of doing what I call an authority map of who the partners are, identifying them, speaking to them, and in particular letting them know our job needs. And we are working right now to tie this to information we're getting about, quite frankly, the poverty level in Clackamas County and what we can do to create good paying jobs to lift people out of poverty.
I think the short answer is we need large blocks of land to bring in family wage jobs. Right now in Clackamas County, we've only recovered 60% of our pre-recession job loss. Multnomah County and Washington County is over 100% on that. And part of our problem is we don't have an area where a company can come in where they need 50 acres to site manufacturing production, high quality research and development, traded sector. So that's what we're looking at. We're trying to work very, very hard on that, and it's very difficult because we're swimming upstream and we're going against the grain, but I guess that's why you folks elected us.
So the court said Clackamas County did it the right way. Washington County did it the wrong way, and they threw out Washington counties. They said, Clackamas County, you need to fix this. And frankly, I think we need to fix the problem, which is transportation on Stafford area. And unless we are able to get the community behind us, it ain't going to happen. So we need to really work hard to get the community behind what we're doing and move forward. I disagree with a lot of the commission that there are other areas we should consider. I think we need to fix this and then work at the legislature to look at any potential resolution of what I think is the Damascus problem.
Well, as a quick wrap up, a majority consensus of this body agrees that we should open the door to a remand. Now, we always believe, because it was cited, as Jim said, the Stafford area, that we will have to address the transportation troubles there in a better way. That will be mandated to us. However, if you look at the opportunity, and Representative Clem did tell us in the legislature this last year, since Washington County lost 2,000 acres of urban growth reserve, that's an opportunity for this county to gain at least a portion of that back. So we will be working with partners. But remember, Representative Clem also sent a message through our Public Government Affairs that, one of the prerequisites to cutting a deal with the legislature is everybody has to get along. I would certainly say if the legislature could do the same thing, then we'll go ahead and follow their example. So the bottom line is we have a lot of work to do, the very valuable work of the EDC. We've hired a consultant to verify an inventory of lands, and there is a prospectus being prepared where we can go to the legislature and do an ask. We don't know what it looks like now. We're always inviting comments. I know the CCBA is involved also, Clackamas County Business Alliance in that, but we will come together at the prescribed time, end of October, middle of November, and by December, 1st of December, we will have our ask in order.
Anyone have anything to add to that?
Rebuttal? This never happened.
Okay. Question number 2. What is Clackamas County doing to streamline regulations and permitting processes in order to help local businesses grow and expand?
Well, we started a 5-year process to look at our codes, our zoning, to simplify it as much as possible, and also to provide greater access online. So we are working through that. We have had many hearings to listen to the business community about what we could do to make it better. So we're working on that, and I think our staff is doing a great job. Now we have a matrix kind of system where you can just look down the line and figure out what works and how I get there, and that's our goal to make. Years ago we said our goal was to get to yes, and our goal is to get to yes, and we're working hard to do that.
And specifically, what Jim's talking about, again, is this look, but when we looked at our industrial codes and regulations, they were cleaned up, solidified, and we had quite a dialogue about what it meant to streamline, and we did so. I will say it got a little interesting with our planning commission, so we had to really spend a lot of time with them to say that no, we don't believe that this is a free fall into something that is going to hurt the environment, but what it truly is a way to get businesses up on the ground quickly in those areas that are zoned industrial and employment lands. That's absolutely critical.
The only thing I'll add or build on a little bit, what Commissioner Bernard's, in 2012, the Board of County Commissioners passed a resolution on basically get to yes, how can we get projects or permitting to a point to where we're finding solutions for those who want to build and help grow our economy. But larger than that, and just recently, as of Thursday night, we finally, after, well, at least for me, over 3 years of hard work, we finally approved our strategic plan and at least got our goals, our big, the guiding star, so to speak, of the commission. What are we trying to do? So as that penetrates all the departments in the county, and they understand what we're trying to do, I think it kind of gives everyone a lot better guidance. So we're going to be working for the next 3 years on providing all of the processes and metrics to build on that so that we continue to advance it. But with the 5-year program to review and update and streamline our ZDO, our zoning development ordinance, is a huge project, and we are actively, every year we pass parts of it. So we're still on track for that 5-year review and updating of our ZDOs.
Okay.
Real quick, when I got into Clackamas County and to the office, one of the first things I did was go down and revisit the permitting and planning department. You've been there. I'm a real estate broker. I've been going in there for over 35 years. One of the most drab and uninviting places I can imagine. And beyond that, most of the time the answer is no, that's not in the code. That gets back to the getting to yes. But beyond that, it's an attitudinal frame of mind. Now, what I asked them to do is jazz the place up. And there is now, and coming the next month or so, they're going to jazz the place up. They're going to make it look as inviting as we believe Clackamas County to be. I said, if you can't find a poster, talk to Danielle Cowan in our tourism department. Put some color up in this place and change attitudes. Now, through the direction of our Department of Transportation Development, Barb Cartmill, they're actually going to ask, I know this is an audacity, but they're going to ask people when they're leaving, how did we do? When Mr. Krupp took office, he said, we got to remember, people who walk through that door or call us on the phone are our customers. And we got to start treating them that way. I am resolute about making Clackamas County the fastest and best in one thing in that planning department. I went and talked to the chair of Clark County about a month ago, and you know what he said? He said on a building that's going to be reoccupied, he said we only demand one permit. It's called an occupation permit, and that's given after the remodel. So that cuts a lot of red tape there. I don't know the financial cost. I don't dare propose it right now, but I need to know more about that because it makes it easier and simpler to reoccupy a dead space in our county. Thank you.
Tootie, anything to add?
I don't think I need to comment on everything.
Okay. Third question. Unlike surrounding counties in this region, Clackamas County has no independent source of road maintenance funding. The conditions of our roads has a direct effect on local industry. What is the county doing to resolve the road funding issue?
Let me throw something out quick on this, if you don't mind. There will be a proposal through the legislature, I just found out this last week, to abolish or get rid of the 100-year-old law that says ad valorem or property taxes cannot be used on roadways. Now, initially you say, well, that's fantastic, because property taxes maybe should be used for roads. Other people think that maybe the users should pay. But here's a problem with that. When that's in the legislature, and the legislature meets till late in the year, if we were to put a proposal before the voters in May of next year, it may be moot, and it certainly may be convoluted in regards to that consideration. So just know that that's going to be proposed in the legislature, and certainly C4 has done really good work, great work in regards to looking at what it would cost. But again, for our $17 million shortfall right now for our 1,400 miles that we're responsible for, that's like driving from here to Mexico, we are $17 million short. In order to get that and share 40% of our revenue with the cities, we'd have to have a 10-cent per gallon gas tax and double the registration fee. So that's pretty onerous, in my opinion. We will see in the future what we will do. Thank you.
In the meantime, what we've been doing is a large-scale outreach. I'm going to actually give kudos to our public and government relation folks. I know I see Gary and Chris at the table back there, and Barb Cartmill, who's head of DTD, Department of Transportation and Development, because they have pulled together an outreach and education program that is so good that it's being modeled at the national level by the National Association of Counties. Their executive director, when I met with him when we were in DC, said it was one of the best outreach programs clarifying the need for road maintenance and repair that he's ever seen. So I just want to thank them, because the work they're doing is setting the stage to educate the public about what the true need is. And we're going to continue to do that, I believe, at least for the next year to year and a half, Chair. Are we not?
Follow up and say, we have been doing polling on whether if we put out to the voters some type of referral to increase funding for roads, whether it be a gas tax, a vehicle registration, a district, trying to be as least onerous as possible and trying to spread it right. I'm not saying I support a tax increase, but one thing our polling revealed was most people don't think there's anything wrong with our roads. So when you're up against that sentiment, how are we supposed to do that? And I think it's confusion. People don't know whose roads they're driving on. If you're driving on a state highway, you don't identify that as a state highway. Or if you're in one of our cities, we have 15 or 16 cities, that road is okay or it's not okay. And so I think it goes to, they don't know which road they're driving on, and they don't realize the condition of the road they're driving on. And one thing that I learned about paving, which I've learned a lot, is that water is and it rains a lot, so the water can seep in to your blacktop, because we don't cement roads anymore, they're way too expensive, and that can cause erosion. So the roads have to be sealed, not only filling potholes. So there's a whole science behind this. And we have been fixing roads in rural Clackamas County. Some roads were just almost impassable to drive on. So that's our challenge, to try to convince people that we need to take care of our roads now so they don't deteriorate and cost 4 times as much to fix later on. And one little point of trivia, Clackamas County has more county roads than any other county in the state. So that's another challenge we have that most people don't realize.
I think if we cannot get the voters to understand that we need to work longer, and then we need to enact it without a vote of the people. That's how we did it in Milwaukee. We educated, we negotiated, and we passed it without a vote of the people, because it'll be very, very difficult to make sure everyone understands that the impact of the road on their life, even if they don't drive, is huge. The post office, delivery service, grocery stores, sewer water pipes, all those things will be impacted. We need to, if the voters don't come around, we need to continue our education, and at some point, we're going to have to do it ourselves.
So in an effort not to repeat anything, my piece of this on the 3 years working with the C4 group, one of the things we identified is really the trust issue out there. So when we do these presentations out around the county, different communities have different issues, different concerns. So trying to earn back the trust at the county level that we are spending their money responsibly, that whether it's a misperception or not, we need to prove to them that we're spending every dollar as wisely as possible. One of the things I led in the budget process this year was trying to within the confines of the state law restriction on spending ad valorem taxes on roads, which disallows that, we found you could spend a few $1 million, $4.5 million, I believe, of general fund dollars legitimately that could augment our roads. So we budgeted $500,000. Now that doesn't go very far, but it's one more step towards building the trust that we are looking, and our goal is to get that number up to $5 million, or the maximum amount allowed by law through this state law. And try to get that. So that will prove that we are spending our discretionary money towards a need that we're asking them to help pay for, ultimately.
Okay, question number 4. One of the 5 areas of focus in the county's strategic plan calls for growing a strong economy. What are some of the ways you envision accomplishing this important goal?
Well, we're back to land. There are, since my taking role as office as commission, I've had been approached by a number of businesses that's come up to it and say, we're here in Clackamas County, we're growing, we want to stay here in Clackamas County. What do you have? We need more land. We need to expand. Or in our 10-year plan, we need to make sure that if we stay here in Clackamas County, that you've got that available. And we've lost some businesses because of that. And so I think it's really about good planning, whether it's land that doesn't have infrastructure that they need, because there are places around the county that we have that land, but we don't have good transportation, or we don't have natural gas, or some critical need. So I really think it's about creating the opportunity, both short and long term, be able to think and be able to envision short and long term what the needs of those businesses are, and of course increasing in the business climate is critical as well.
I'd like to outline some quick successes, and again, I'm going to mention our economic development staff is at the back table, and these successes are largely due to, I hope, a commission that was cooperative and gives them the wherewithal to do what they need to do, but they've had some significant expansions. Pico Astronomics has expanded its facility, bringing 234 jobs, and they plan on adding 23 new jobs in July 2015. General Sheet Metal is constructing the first phase of an expansion that will add 35 new jobs. The Clackamas Industrial Area Road Improvements Project has received a $250,000 grant based on the retention of 90 full-time equivalent jobs. And one of our bright stars is Bob's Red Mill. And it's a local business that is now traded sector. Bob's exports to over 60 countries and has opened a new distribution center in the Clackamas industrial area, freeing up more production and packaging space at their world headquarters. The other thing that our staff has done that's been phenomenal, they have an employment land mapping program. They're working diligently on the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. They're looking at an export initiative. In fact, basically the White House was here with their Made in Rural America Forum in August, and this was only one of 5 regional forums across the country to help our rural economy find new customers overseas and to really get exports moving. Jamie Jonk does a fabulous job on the Main Street revitalization program for our cities, and Catherine Comer works very hard with the rest of the team, and Cindy and everyone, with the film and media component of what's been blossoming here in Clackamas County is a sector that we're really watching closely, as well as Danielle's sitting in front of me, so I'm also going to mention the phenomenal growth in tourism that has happened.
So another great opportunity is Eagles Landing. You know, Clackamas County doesn't have a lot of opportunities such as the potential for Eagles Landing and the great partnership that could exist if we move that project forward. I'd say the county board is behind that project. We'd love to see it happen, and so I look forward to seeing that project move forward. We've given a lot. The county has given a lot to make this happen, and I don't know how much more we have to give, but we can certainly give our support.
Another project we're working on is a Blue Heron abandoned paper mill. It has been purchased. Clackamas County is actively trying to work on, we've completed a vision statement with the two other government entities, Metro and the City of Oregon City, and they both have been very generous in stepping up to the plate and offering their expertise. We've also been working with the governor's office on that, and the state legislature approved a $5 million as long as we find matching funds for the development of that. And we're working on DC money and other monies around to try to find that. We want to see the developer be successful on that. And my opinion is the best thing government can do out of private sector enterprises to get out of the way and just help them be successful without imposing stricter regulations, and I think we've tried to do that. I look forward to that happening. I think with the Willamette Falls could be a huge draw to our county, and when you have a facility or an area like that, the Blue Heron, and then you have the Eagles Landing is right over there off of 205, that's a draw into the community, and when you draw people in, of course, it could create some transportation headaches, but also creates a trickle-down effect in our economy that maybe they'll stop at the lady that owns those Subway stores in the back there, and then more businesses come, that a CPA man back there can be employed. So we're trying to do our best on that, and it's quite a process, and it frustrates me that it takes so dang long to do some of this stuff. So that's what we're working on.
I'll just say real quick, if you think about what each commissioner has talked about, certainly land, I mean, Will Rogers said it best, by land, they ain't making any more of it. And we don't have it in that large a size, so that's integral. And going back to how we treat people at the county level when they come and apply or when they have their vision brought before us, that's equally as important. I just wanted to say one thing about Eagle Landing, and I want to thank Lori Dreamer for inviting me and our county staff here a week or so ago to come to a come-together party. Lori's like that, you know. And what we came together, and really what this county is ready to say to Eagle Landing is, bring it on. Apply for something, for goodness sakes. It's time to give us the master plan. I don't want to say talk is cheap, but how many years do you talk about this thing? You know, he certainly brought forward some very interesting and dynamic tenants to talk with us about their belief of it, and that's great, but it's time to submit the master plan. And that's a joint process between Happy Valley and Clackamas County, because it's, you know, it's kind of a shared responsibility. So my emphasis is, and it will be in the future, please apply. Nothing will happen until you do. Thank you.
Can I add one point to that, too? One of the reasons it's such an exciting opportunity is I know that Adventist Health has been looking at the property, and we have developed here, actually with the help of my colleague Shelley Perini, we developed a huge healthcare sector here between Providence and Legacy and all these opportunities. These are Kaiser Permanente is kind of the mothership out here. And the whole notion of economic development is that when you have these clusters, anyone who's in that cluster helps bring, you know, the rising tide raises all boats kind of an attitude here. So it would really fit into the previous work, and which I would say is the brilliant work that was pulled together from economic development as well, and they continue to do that. Off the topic, I forgot to mention Rick Gruen, who is largely responsible for our agricultural investment plan, which is also a national model, and I would suggest that you look at that on the website, because that's what brought the White House here to Clackamas County.
Okay, don't forget you have cards on your table, the index cards. to ask questions. So if you have questions, hold it up. Somebody will come and grab it from you. We have another question, a prepared question here, the last one. And that is to tell us some ways in which Clackamas County is leveraging its agricultural assets to support local businesses and grow our economy. Martha, would you like to start with that one?
I might as well. I didn't realize that was going to be the first question. But what we did was look at what we had here in terms of our agricultural economy, particularly for our rural communities. And again, Rick Roon was largely responsible with the EDC, with our Economic Development Commission and our Economic Development team to look at that. And so this is a really broad-based initiative that looked at the kinds of crops we grow, farm-to-table kinds of issues, food shed issues. Like we are poised to be the breadbasket of Portland, for example, as soon as they open up their James Beard Market, which we are watching very, very closely. But the key thing is that we identified the people who were the growers, and we have attempted to partner them with the larger institutions as we move towards this food shed and healthy eating kinds of initiatives. That includes hospital systems, it includes schools. I'll be visiting a school this week that is actually doing that whole farm-to-table thing. So it's also involving healthcare as a sector, because healthy eating, healthy living is all combined. One of the things we did is the governor gave us a grant from his Community Solutions piece, where we pulled together an agricultural one-stop, where actually Shelley and I were the co-conveners of that group, and we went around and talked directly to farmers about what they needed to know at a one-stop. So we didn't do it in isolation. They told us they need to know what to grow and where to grow it. They need to know what the market is like. They need to know what the regulations are. And I don't know what I'm missing, Shelley, but there's a whole list of things that will be portals. Nobody in the state has done this before. We're the first. And again, this is another reason why the White House and the National Association of Counties is watching through the Rural Action Caucus what we're doing here. I can't go into total detail because it's a huge amount of information, but please go to the website and look at this brilliant work. It talks about everything from food sheds to growing to exporting our agricultural products, not only to over the river and through the woods to Portland, but we're talking international exporting as well.
I would like to add, being a fourth-generation farmer, the Willamette Valley in Oregon has the best growing conditions of any place in the world. I don't know if you're aware, we can grow anything. And we can grow things that nobody else can. And that uniquely situates us to be able to feed the world. It's one thing to have, and Martha's done a fantastic job, farmers markets everywhere, but that's during season. So how do we feed our populace when the weather turns and we don't have the season to grow things? Greenhouses are fine, but we need processing facilities, and we need to invent new technologies to process our food. And I think that's on the horizon with R&D. And that goes to our land supply. Do we have the land to site a facility, for instance, to process or can the vegetables and the things that we all require? And every year there's a new type of food thing on the market, and we could be a part of that. Part of it's our land use system. The part of it is the EPA and the federal government and the water runoff. That's a huge impediment to farming in Clackamas County. So with our efforts, we hire a national lobbyist in D.C. who watches that stuff intently for us, and our payoff on that has been huge. This doesn't have anything to do with farming, we're going to mention it. Clackamas County was criticized in a newspaper article because we pay more for a federal lobbyist than any other of the county commissions in the state. Well, when you're third best or fourth best, you have to try harder. Over the last 15 years, we have paid out $2 million for this lobby firm, who has been excellent for us. And in the return of that $2 million, we have received $168 million in some type of funding or grants that we were able to not only use at the county, but disseminate to the cities. So I would say that's a pretty good in return on investment. The second thing about transporting our goods and our food to market is our transportation system. If you notice this summer, the roads were busy. We were gridlocked at almost every turn you went on. And part of it is the 2-mile stretch over at the 5.8 mile, thank you, stretch between Abernathy Bridge through Stafford to I-5. That has to be remedied because our trucks sit there in gridlock that have our goods on them. And that creates pollution, it creates all kinds of things. So that's a priority to help get our agriculture products to the masses.
I'll just have a brief response, and that is, in I think our second year on the Economic Development Commission, we did a lot of work with our economic development staff with our agriculture piece, identifying how many farms are out there, what their needs are, and so Jamie Jonk and others have done a great job with that. The other thing we have is a great, the Oregon Extension Service has a great foothold in Clackamas County. We're doing everything we can, working with them to talk about what kind of crops to grow, what their needs are, and so that has been a great asset. So I'll just keep that one brief.
I might mention that the person over there at the Extension Service is Mike Bondi. And I was talking to Mike here last week about my concern. Again, a real estate broker, I've driven every road multiple times, and there's so much fallow, usable land in Clackamas County. Sometimes it's broken up at 10 and 15 acres, but and sometimes the old parents don't want to move from there, and that's fine. But there's a bunch of fallow property in Clackamas County, and they have a program where they're working with these people who are not using their land, where they can get these young people in there, get them excited about farming for the future. But anyway, I thought that was a great program. Thank you.
Chair, remember Clackamas Community College has an urban farming program that they've been working on to get people in there too. When you said that, I just had to.
No problem, Martha.
Okay, first awkward question. Is there a commission concern about your collective image? And if so, what are plans to improve reputation?
Well, I think we're doing that today. I just said to the chair, look at how smoothly we're working together and we're all giving each other a chance to talk and everything. And the other thing I always remind people is, it is Clackamas County. Come on, really. It always gets a little, it's always fair weather in Clackamas County. That's my attitude. And I don't think that we should worry about those kinds of things. I think we need to be worrying about the issues that we're all working on together. So that's how I look at it.
Well, you talk about our image. Where does our image come from? News media. I mean, seriously, do you believe everything you read? And you probably should not, because we have an embedded reporter, not by our own making, who sits through hours and days of meetings. And I might disagree with somebody on something, or they might disagree with something on an opinion. That's the one thing they choose to write about. They don't write about how many 5-0 votes we've had moving forward. It's probably in the 90%. Yes, we have differences of opinion, and when you serve on a 5-member commission, I think those differences are highlighted more than when I served in the legislature, when there were 60 of us, all mouthing, nobody pays attention to you, and it's worse in Congress, over 435 members. You don't think they're divisive, and they don't have differences of opinion, but they tend to focus on the 5 people here in the county because that's what they choose to do. So don't believe everything you read in the paper. I happen to think my commissioners are some of the best people to serve with. They have challenged me. Oh, geez.
Do I sense disagreement?
No. He was crying. They have challenged me, and I know I have challenged them. So I think it's a lot of fun.
Don't I always say tomorrow's another day?
The
call me
Pollyanna
Mrs.
theory.
Pollyanna.
We all know we're weird. And, in the end, most of our goals are the same. We want what's best for Clackamas County. How we get there is the challenge. And sometimes that's just going room to room and try to figure out how can we reach the decision we believe the county deserves. And it happens most of the time. There's just an occasional problem. And humor's great.
I think, if anybody would really take the time to either listen to or watch us on TV, what is the problem? The problem is spelled out by the Oregonian. Now, let's be fair. They changed the way they pay the reporters. They get paid by hits, Twitter hits, online Oregon Live hits. And does that particularly reflect what was going on in those meetings, as Tootie says. They pluck something out of there where we disagree, and so what? It's not about disagreeing, it's about being disagreeable or not. We disagree. I think it's healthy. How would there ever be change? And I was talking to Rob and to Mark at my table. How would you ever have change unless somebody disagreed? Should we just go lockstep and rubber stamp everything? So we got to get along, go along to get along. I think we have very healthy meetings where everybody gets a chance to say what they want and there's a majority consensus given forward. So what is a disagreement? One of the things I've practiced not doing is I've never taken my commissioners to task for something I disagree with. I've never written a letter, I'm ashamed of my commission, they shouldn't have done this. That is not the proper way to operate on a board where you have to get along with people, and besides that, you want to. We find consensus. Jim's the first one to say it. We find consensus here, and sometimes it's not what you would desire to say is pretty, but it is done, and that's our business, is to gather the information and make the decision based on our experience and our level of interest. Thank you.
Of course, being the senior commissioner, I have a lot more experience.
So there, my response in that regard is that, we've had our difficulties, and there's a saying out there that perception is reality. So whether it's real or not, can be argued. But I think really what we could do, to improve that is work together as a team and work together towards the goals that we're all elected to do. And I think it's that focus towards the goals, which again, I'm pleased we adopted Thursday night. But if we're true to that and we're true to our citizens and work together as a team, I think we can make a lot of progress in that area.
And again, the other thing I know John referred to, yes, I suppose I could be Pollyanna, but I think it's good to have an attitude where you just let things go. Things get heated. These are discussions. At our table, we talked about the burden and weight of leadership on your shoulders, and that's largely, I think, sometimes what happens. So you really, to be a leader, you have to let the past be the past and just move forward and work with who you need to work with to make things happen. That's servant leadership. It's the best way to serve the public. So it's a good philosophy. Just don't hold on to the negative, because it's not going to do you any good and it's a waste of energy.
Martha always says that, expect the tomatoes. It's part of the job. And I say, it's not the tomatoes I'm worried about, it's the javelins.
It's a
Okay, new question.
Pikes.
What is the plan to optimize land owned by the county? Timber holdings, Stone Creek, industrial land, etc.
Well, I'd like to talk about our Stone Creek. Now that we've paid off the debt with our county-owned timberland, we have about 3,000 acres of timberland that we manage for sustainable forestry. And we accelerated the harvest over the last year. We're able to pay off a $3.7 million debt, saving $1 million of interest over the next 10 years. Now Stone Creek doesn't have that debt to pay, so they are operating at a profit. And Stone Creek has reached out to people. A lot of people can use it for various types of enjoyment, not just golf, but events too. And since that money isn't going to Stone Creek, we're able to take our timber receipts and put into our county parks, not to be confused with North Clackamas Park District, but our county parks, to enhance our recreation and our open spaces that people have said they like having in Clackamas County. What was the next part of the question?
Industrial, we have a
Go ahead.
site off of 212 that
Oh, right.
we're working to better the site and to invite businesses that are looking for potential sites. We're also, we have a number of sites that are left over from road projects. We're looking at selling those sites and putting those dollars back into, whether it's the urban renewal district or it's back into the general fund. And we're slowly working our way through that. And lots of times, certainly in the bad economy, lots of business came to us and they just practically want us to pay them to take the land. And we said no. And because we believe that the taxpayers have the right to get a return on their investment. So we're working hard to make those the best possible returns.
One of the things about employment lands, I think I might have mentioned this already, but again, please be aware that we have an employment land mapping program, and this was with Business to Economic Development. It was with our GIS folks, our technology services, and this is an interactive mapping site search tool that gives people a way to assess what the available employment land and buildings are. And this program won a National Association of Counties Award this past go-around at New Orleans. The department also completed a study of 1,000+ acres of available employment and lands. Well, that's nice, it's 1,000 acres, but the key point to this is they've also done an analysis of what the infrastructure needs are. And frankly, that's what keeps the pipeline from moving forward, because you can identify the land, but you also have to identify water, sewer, transportation pieces that go with it to allow it to be ready. They also are doing quite a great job with recruitment at this point as well. They've got a plan called Land of the Plenty, and this targeted businesses from outside the county, state, and U.S. And it's included, again, if you look at the website of Business and Economic Development, you can see all of that there. I think, of course, I'm biased. I think it's one of the best pieces of our website there for the business community, and you should be using it and looking at it continuously, as well as the tourism website. So.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
How is the county's investment in the dark fiber project expected to increase economic development?
We didn't invest.
You familiar with dark
Oh,
fiber?
we
Can you
know it
define
very
dark
well.
fiber?
No, I'm not going to define it. It means the most amount of pairs, they call it, that you've ever seen, and that's PAIR. One of the great things about it, and I've just talked with Broadband Express, and that's what we call it. Remember, we're not in this for profit. We are in this for management and to avail our services initially to public entities, schools, police departments, fire departments, et cetera. That was our primary. But if you think about it as an economic development tool, when it goes through Estacada to Mount Hood, for goodness sakes, you think about the possibilities of companies locating along there who demand and require this kind of a speed. Now remember, we're not providing the speed, we're providing the vehicle to get the speed. That's by individual providers. But whether it's Comcast or a local provider, they are signing up very rapidly. One of the things that I suggested when I met with that group, because remember, you've got, in any big organization like us, we've got our IT people, but they're not salespeople. And so what I suggested is, and I think they're going to do, is propose hiring as salesmen. Certainly they're very technical, these people understand the technical part of it, but we need to tell more people of this very important service that's very close by to them. Then it will affect our businesses. It will affect our existing businesses. It will enhance the possibility of others coming in following that extensive and outreach circle that we've created in this county. So it's in its infant stages, expected to grow, but I think one of the best things we can do is expose it to more people. What does this bring to Clackamas County? What are the possibilities for you as a business specifically?
The only thing I will add is that Sandy, and actually a city councilor in Sandy is the one who really helped Clackamas County's broadband get off the ground and moving. And Jeremy Peetshold is his name, and we're also works at ESD. So we wanted to connect the schools. His goal was to reduce the cost to the schools for broadband access, and so we looked at the savings there, and that was certainly a strong initiative and rationale for why we got the federal grant to do that. I just learned this morning that Molalla is taking advantage of that. Their goal's very similar to Sandy's, that try to hook every household up in Molalla. So connecting those communities, those rural communities, and is just something we just need to promote more of. And it's really taken off. It's a vital piece of infrastructure, but it's certainly not fully utilized, and we'll do everything we can to do just that.
It's interesting that it's a new, it's like transportation on wires. I just wanted to mention the Governor's Regional Solutions team, when we met with Google, one of the high points that Clackamas got to showcase was this dark fiber network as something that would attract them to locate here. I don't know what the status of that was, but they did mention they were blown away about the capacities that were here. So it's locating, it's not only connecting people, it's hopefully bringing in some of those larger businesses that can have good paying jobs, so.
Okay. Here's another awkward question. Awkward only because you are all humble leaders.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What do you believe to be your most effective quality as a leader, and why?
We should probably do that about each other.
John runs good meetings.
Thank you.
You want me to tackle that?
Sure.
Okay, so Paul is one of the best detailed person I've ever worked with, and if you really want to understand transportation issues and budget issues, he's the go-to guy for that, and I really appreciate that, because you need somebody with a group that has that skill set. John does run some of the best meetings that I've ever attended, and he's also extremely skillful that as we go through a whole meeting, encapsulating and working very well with our county administrator, but what did we really say? So that's a good. And Jim, you're just hysterical. I don't know what else to
I'm just
say.
funny. Actually, I've negotiated a
hysterical.
lot of deals that have resolved some problems.
Yes, you have.
And I
It's
think
for sure.
I think that's
And-
where my strength
But I
is.
guess one of the point is I'm saying it's humor.
Yeah.
Humor. And Tootie, you
Just
always know
funny.
where you stand. You're straight as an arrow. So that's
Straight
how I
as
see
an
it.
arrow.
And I'm just,
I would say that Jim gets us to consensus. He understands both sides, as I think we all do. Martha's a peacemaker. Paul gets down to the details to ad nauseum, and I'm the personality that says, for crying out loud, can we move on now? And then John runs an excellent meeting when I say things like that. And so, and I think I have some humor, but I tend to be able to make decisions quickly. I tend to analyze information fast, and that's one of my strong points. But it's all a balance. And our strengths and our weaknesses come out at different times. So it's really kind of fun to see that dynamic.
Wow. I opened the Pandora's box, did I not? It is true that Paul is very discerning and introspective on detail. And it is true that Martha she's the peacemaker. It is true that Jim Bernard is, I think, has great humor, and he and I get in trouble sometimes about that. And Tootie is the butt kicker. It's true. But you know, in my style of leadership, again, watch the meetings is I like to listen to what every commissioner has to say first. I talk probably less than most everybody else. Why? Because it's not my vote. It's not my vision. It's not my leadership. It takes 3 votes. And so I want to hear and gather all the input, and I feel my job is to boil that down to a consensus. It's not always 5-0 as mentioned, but a lot of times it is, or 4-1. But my job is to gather it in and not to push my particular direction, because I can't do anything alone. And overall, I'm very proud of this commission and leading it. Thank you.
Well, I guess it's my turn. Yes, I'm analytical. I think people have told me that, through my last 16 years or so of community service is I do look at things. In my work experience, working on very complex things, I've had to look at things in systems and look out of the box and in the box to find solutions. But my experience working with groups is it's a chemistry set. Put 5 people together in a room to solve a problem, and there's a lot of chemistry. Everything. I believe everyone has something. Has their strengths and brings something to the table. Martha, indeed, I think has got the ability to remain calm and help keep us calm, and she does a great job of that. She's a good level of common sense. John runs a good meeting. John thinks well. We all think better when we're calm. Jim, yes, Jim's got a good sense of humor, and Tootie, you always know where Tootie's at, and I appreciate that. But we have a lot of complex problems, and you know, sometimes my frustration is that the volume of material we have and the time we have to work with it and study it sometimes will reveal things that only that deep look and discussion can provide. And I just favor the dialogue. I think it's important to have the dialogue and listen to one another intently and value what one another says. And I think that's how we can work better as a team.
Can I just make one comment? What we had talked about at the table about leadership, and I don't know if people understand it, but what I really love and enjoy about this job, if there aren't any dots to connect, I make my own dots. And try and connect them. And that's, I think, what I enjoy the most is thinking outside of the box. And I love the diversity of the job. I love the people. I mean, it's just so much fun to go from Boring to Lake Oswego to, I mean, it's an amazing county, and it's so diverse and so much fun to just see how different people are and how different, languages and needs and issues that you have to deal with. It's probably the best job you can ever have.
Well, I'd say that's the best note to end on, is praising each other. So I think that'll be the end of our audience questions, certainly. So if you have any questions for the commissioners, I'm sure they'd be willing to address it one-on-one while they're here. So don't hesitate to approach them and introduce yourself if you don't already know them. And I'll bring Laura Edmonds up, our president and CEO.
Let's give a welcome for Rob, by the way, don't you think?
Oh, and by the way, please give a hand to our commissioners as well.